Hello, my name is Kindra Rains. I am Ivan and Kimberly Tait's daughter, and I am also the office manager for our U.S. offices and our liaison for everything that we do in Kenya. And I am so excited to be here with you today. Thank you for letting what matters into your home and into your lives, and that you would give us any of your time. Open your heart to what we have to say is such a privilege. Today, I really want to speak to you about the power of vulnerability and how important it is for our lives. I find that more and more I hear how people have a problem with trust, how they have a problem opening their hearts and sharing themselves with others, how they even have a problem being able to trust God. And I know in my life, I feel like trust has been one of my greatest battles. I am a very protected person. I like to feel safe in my heart. I like to protect those that I love. And so to put myself out there and just believe in the best in people, or believe that God is truly going to work everything for my good, has been a challenge many times in my life. But the truth is, nobody is born not trusting. Nobody is born with an aversion to vulnerability. Adam and Eve, even in the garden, it said that they were naked and unashamed, that they had no fear, that they didn't know even the word vulnerability because they felt so safe, they felt so covered. And it was only through the knowledge of sin, the knowledge of evil and what they had done, did they become ashamed for the first time? Did they feel like there was something to hide or something that they needed covered? And that is the truth of what Jesus brings to us, is restoration to the original plan of us being who God always intended us to be, which were people who could stand naked and unashamed before Him and before those that we love and say, this is who I am, this is my greatest offering, is to bring myself, and in that be truly known and truly accepted. And I know that as we all are raised to believe in Christianity, Jesus is truly the greatest example of everything that we would ever hope to be. And so I'm really going to focus on Him today and how He teaches us the power of vulnerability. It says in John 1:1, it says, "In the beginning, before all time, was the Word, who is Jesus. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God Himself. He was continually existing in the beginning, co-eternally with God. All things were made and came into existence through Him, and without Him not even one thing was made that has come into being. In Him was life, and the power to bestow life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines on in the darkness, and the darkness did not understand it, or overpower it, or appropriate it, or absorb it, and it is unreceptive to it." This is one of the most beautiful verses about the power of who Jesus is. Before all of creation, before you and I were ever made, before Jesus ever came to earth, He was the Word, and He was with God, and He was God. Through Him, all things are sustained and have their being. It is an amazing verse if we could just even comprehend what it truly means. For Him to be the light that shines in the darkness, that cannot be overpowered, that cannot be appropriated, that cannot be conquered. How powerful is Jesus, how mighty He is. All of heaven is surrounded by His presence, by His sacrifice. It is populated because of what Jesus did. Heaven itself hangs on Jesus. And yet He chose to come to us as a baby, the most vulnerable version of humanity there can be, a brand new infant, and not born into a king's home, not born into royalty, not born into provision that would exceed others, but He came impoverished. He came to a barn. He came wrapped in swaddling clothes. He came wrapped in rags. He didn't come with, blasts of trumpets and parades. He came humbly and vulnerably. How beautiful is that? That power embodied chose to come in such a precious, beautiful way. He could have come fully grown. He could have come with His chariots and His horses and His angel armies. He could have come so many ways, but He chose to come with nothing. He chose to come known as an illegitimate child. Joseph was not the father. Everybody knew it if Joseph had told people. But instead, God came vulnerably, ready and willing to be seen as without, so that He could show us exactly how much our Father loves us. Even in our times of vulnerability, our times of lack, Jesus is the ultimate example of how God makes up for anything we don't have. Jesus came in the way that no one would have expected. The Jews were expecting some great Messiah to come in and save them all and overthrow the government and do all these incredible things, but instead He came peacefully and quietly and in the middle of the night, without any fanfare, without any huge, reaction from people here and there, but instead it was shepherds who saw Him. It was shepherds who were told first. How beautiful is that we, in our simplicity, in our lack, in our being without, we can know that we're nearest to who Jesus is in those times. It's how he chose to present himself to us. He started in the most vulnerable way. He decided to come stripped of all his power. Could you imagine being Jesus, especially with how we are taught, especially in the Western world, how we're taught the more power, the better, the more strength, the better, the more we can rely on ourselves, the better. That voice of being independent and being strong and being a self-made man or a self-made woman. Or how many times do we hear now, I'm a strong, independent woman. I'm a strong, independent man. We hear that all the time like it's something to brag about. But it's the opposite of Jesus' nature. Jesus never said, I'm a strong, independent anything. He said, I rely on my Father. My Father and I are one. I don't do anything that he doesn't say to do first. Jesus chose. He chose. He could have just done it all without us. God never even had to make us. He never even had to put us on this planet and decide to need us. But he so desired fellowship. He so desired to be needed and to be the answer to needs that he chose to do it this way. And so I feel like it's one of those things that the devil just so comes against. He so wants to rob us of the ability to be vulnerable, to be open, to say I need, to say I want, to say I desire, for us to be able to confess what is going on in our lives, to confess our struggles. The devil wants to defeat that in us. He wants to take it away from us because he knows the more we get isolated, the more we become independent, the more we become self-reliant, the more we are not like Jesus. And therefore we don't have access to the openness of God, to the secrets of God, to the freedom that he would bring. You know, our kids come to the orphanage in Guatemala very vulnerable. They come malnourished, they come sick, they come having been abused many times. They come having nothing to offer, nothing to give. All they are is in need. And yet they come with their hands open saying, help me. And if we don't meet them vulnerably as well, if we don't give of ourselves, if we don't give of our hearts and our revelations, if we don't give of our softness, if we don't give of our trust and our love, if we don't put ourselves on the line for them, we can't reach them. They don't react to professional psychologist kind of mumbo jumbo. They react to hearts. They react to our passion for them to see them set free. They react to our vulnerability being given to them. They react to our tears and our arms holding them. They react to our sacrifice. And that is what every heart longs for, is to be told, not I have all the answers for you, but to be told I can join you and I can lift you up because of how God lifted me up. I am willing and I am able to humble myself like Jesus did, to get on your level, to know you as you need to be known, not as I require you to be known in order for my comfort or my satisfaction or what is convenient for my life, but instead to know you where you are at. And that is when we're truly able to reach the kids in our orphanage. And you guys, as partners with us, you make that possible. You support our staff and you support the ministry. You support my dad going out every week and being able to touch lives and raise new partners and funds for projects that keep the orphanage running. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you for being trustworthy with our vulnerability as a ministry. Thank you for being people that we truly can open our needs to and open our hearts to, and you come running. You come with open hearts and you come with open hands and you come down to the orphanage and you see the children yourself and you focus on them for a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time. You just stop everything and you come in your vulnerability and your need to reach into somebody else's life. It truly is such a beautiful thing. You know, ministry really doesn't work without vulnerability. It really doesn't. If a minister gets up and just has all the answers and projects this picture of a perfect life and he can't or she can't relate to anybody's problems because they just walk on water or, have fasted and prayed every day since they were born, I can't relate to that. I wouldn't know how to receive from that. But it is in your need, it's in your openness and your brokenness that you can reach other people. It's in your testimony that you can truly touch lives. And so I just want to encourage you to make an offering of your life. Make an offering of your life, that everything you do, every part of you would be something poured out. Like Paul said, he said, I've been poured out and I was good to the last drop. That's the prayer for my life, that at the end of my days, I would say I have nothing left to give. I've given it all and I was good to the last drop. How beautiful would that be if I could say that to my kids before they get married? You know what? In my parenting, I was good to the last drop. I gave you everything I had. To my husband, you know what, babe, after 70 years of marriage, which we're going to have at least, I was good to the last drop. I gave you everything I had. As a minister, I don't ever want to get behind a pulpit and say, well, I could have given more. I could have left more in those people's hearts, but instead I held back out of insecurity or fear. I want to give all I have, and I encourage you to do the same. Whatever you've been entrusted with in your life, make your life an offering. Give it all away, and know that the greatest in the kingdom is the servant of all. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for these partners. Thank you so much for the men and women who are choosing to serve in your kingdom and plow the fields and sow the seeds and rescue the orphan and the widow. Thank you for those who are walking in vulnerability today and those who are just beginning their journey of trust and trusting you and trusting those that you've put in their lives. God, I just pray that you would set people free, that you would place hearts into broad, open places, that they would be able to see your light shine in the darkness, that inconquerable, that light that cannot be broken, it cannot be shattered, it cannot be overwhelmed by darkness, but it is your light that shines. And we just lean on you today, Jesus. We choose to make our life an offering. We choose to give our whole selves to you again today. In Jesus' name, we love you and we bless you.